With our payment schedule now complete, we're ready to calculate the present value of our lease payments. So let's add a column to do this and call it present value of payment. To calculate the present value, we'll take our payment and divide it by the discount rate raised to the number of periods we're discounting. But since these are monthly payments and our discount rate is an annual rate, we'll need to use the effective monthly rate. So our formula will be the lease payment divided by 1 plus the effective monthly rate raised to the power of the period in column F. So if we lock ourselves and copy this formula down a few months, you'll see the present value of our payments are slowly decreasing as they get further out in the future, just as we'd expect. So let's copy that down all the way to the end of our schedule. Now we need to sum all these up to calculate the present value of our future lease payments, which helps inform our lease classification and our opening journal entry. Now before we do that, let's increase the height of this header row just a little bit, and then let's freeze these cells so that each time we scroll to the bottom, these header rows stay in place. Okay, so let's create another section over on the left here and call it Lease Liability. This will simply be the sum of all of our present values. So we'll say present value of future payments. And let's bold this one. This is very important to our lease schedule overall. Instead of using a sum formula here though, let's add a total row to the bottom of our schedule. This will be useful as we move forward. So we'll add a placeholder row and then a total rows here at the bottom. And let's bold this, give it a green background and a bottom border. And then we'll sum both our total payments and the present value of our payments. And let's make sure these are both center aligned. And now you can see after commencement, over the lease term, we'll pay $197,900. And the present value of those payments at our discount rate is $179,649. So now we can link to that total for our lease liability. And then just to prove this, let's quickly calculate the present value using Excel's built-in present value formula. That formula can't handle uneven payments like the ones in our lease, but for illustration, we'll calculate a present value using our first payment of $5,500. So we'll say equals PV, use the effective monthly rate as the rate. We'll have 35 payments. We'll enter our payment as negative $5,500, use a future value of 0, and enter 0 for the final input to indicate the payments occur at the end of each period. Even though for our lease we make payments in advance, because we skip the first payment and then make payments on the last day of each month in advance of the next month, the correct value to use in this formula is the end of each period. The result is a present value of $174,940 for a stream of 35 monthly payments of $5,500 made at the end of each period at our effective monthly interest rate. And if we change all our payments in the schedule to $5,500, you'll see our own calculation matches that perfectly. But our custom calculation is more versatile because it can handle any pattern of payments, which is essential for lease accounting in the real world. So let's reset everything. And now we're ready to compare this to the fair value of the underlying asset. Earlier I mentioned that during our research we received a quote to purchase the equipment new for $190,000. And the present value of the future lease payments at commencement is $179,649, which is over 90% of the fair value of $190,000. It comes out to a little less than 95%. That means we meet the criterion in ASC 842 1025-2 that states the present value of the lease payments equals or exceeds substantially all of the fair value of the underlying asset. So after setting all of this up, we finally have our classification. This is a finance lease. This means we'll calculate our right-of-use asset and amortize it separately from the interest expense on our liability, which we'll calculate using the effective interest method. So we can head back to our lease list and classify our equipment lease as a finance lease. Note that there is one remaining criterion in the classification test. If the asset is so highly specialized that it has no alternative use to the lessor at the end of the lease term, the lease is a finance lease regardless of any other analysis. If we had not reached a conclusion after the present value test, we'd need to evaluate this highly specialized criterion. But because a lease only needs to meet one of the 5 criteria, and we've already met one, this becomes irrelevant for our classification. So at this point, we've identified that we have a lease, separated the lease and non-lease components, or more accurately, elected the practical expedient to combine them, and classified our lease as a finance lease. In the next episode, we're ready to continue and complete our initial measurement.